Okay, so we're gonna address this, and it's gonna be a two-parter. I deleted my original footage because I had made it about two people, but I decided to make this about Little Wee Wee here. Alright, Little Wee Wee. So let's have this little chat about how you think MMIP is a cult. Alright? But MMIP is not a cult. Your little comment says that they were burning down churches in Canada. Well, I love Canada. I've been there a few times, only to Toronto. We were almost going to go to Montreal, but the last time we went to Canada, somebody unalived another dude on a bus. He got possessed by the Wendigo. At least that's what they're using, Wendigo psychosis, as his defense. This is back in like 2008, maybe 2010, somewhere between those 2 years. Anyway, point being made is really quite simple. Missing and murdered indigenous people is not a cult. You're just a jackass. Now, in the original video, I wanted to address someone calling me a pretendian. I'm not going to address that in this video. I'm just going to address Little Wee Wee here. That's right. Your name is Little Wee Wee because that's the head you're thinking with. So, let's make this clear, Little Wee Wee. Indigenous people, Native Americans, go missing and murdered at an accelerated rate 5 times higher than black people and then white people. And sometimes they don't get to come home. Indigenous people have been put on starlight tours. And for those who do not know what a starlight tour is where the police of whatever area decide that they're going to pick up a Native American, most of the time it's a man, in frigid temperatures, and they're going to drive him not to the reservation, they're going to drive him past the reservation, and they're going to take him far enough where no one can find him, no one can see him, and 9 times out of 10 they have removed his shoes. So after they have removed his shoes, they've taken him somewhere to a place where he has no help for miles and miles and miles. And he has to walk all the way the fuck back in below freezing temperatures. But you, Little Wee Wee, yes, you, with your small penis, you are deciding that this shit's a cult. Most of the men who go on starlight tours are found frozen and deceased because they could only walk so far before they fracking froze to death. But you wouldn't know that because you're probably not a Native American, and you probably don't understand that missing and murdered indigenous people get hurt by law enforcement who have their racist biases. Oh, it's a drunk native, let's go ahead and take him for a tour. We really can't arrest him for anything because being drunk isn't a crime until you actually commit a crime. I guess what, vagrancy? I think that's what it's called. Or lewd behavior in public, intoxicated in public. Usually, depending on your state and your city, you got a drunk tank. And they'll generally put people in a drunk tank. But for some reason, the world doesn't believe that natives deserve to get in a drunk tank. Let's just take them on a fucking starlight tour and see what the fuck happens. And here's the thing about starlight tours, Little Wee Wee. Cops don't have to write that shit down. All they have to do is say, we gave them a ride. And they probably do. And they probably also don't fill out the report that they gave a drunk native a ride and left his ass out there in the cold. Now, granted, this shit happens generally in western states where there's cold. Virginia's a little bit tighter on some of those laws. And we do have a drunk tank. It's not like Andy Griffin and all that shit in Mayberry, but we do have a drunk tank. You know, because being intoxicated in public, if you're walking home, you're probably okay. But if you're walking home and start a fight, you're probably going to be in trouble. And a drunk fight is still a fight. So they can probably get you for assault. But they really can't get you for much else other than you being overserved and bars and shit generally don't get charged if you're overserved. Ah, fuck. I'm breaking the law. I didn't have all day for the light to turn. I got shit to do. Any fucking how. You're so hell-bent on accusing missing and murdered indigenous people of being a cult. You probably aren't doing your research. You know, you're not looking at the unalive rate of Native Americans all across the United States. Now, I can't give you anything about Canada because I don't live there. Can't give you anything about South America because I don't live there. But if there's a Native American movement and I find out about it, I will do what I can to support it. By the way, did you all know that the Navajo Nation in Arizona is still fighting for their water rights for 9 months now? Started in 2023. And they lost their water rights for some odd ass reason. How do you take the tribe of people along with other tribes that joined the United States military and turned the tide in World War II to stop Schmittler and his Yazis, and then take away their water rights? Yeah. See that shirt? My DD-214's at home. Be all that you can be. Most of those guys were Army and Marines, and they don't have water rights. But you know, you're calling MMIP a cult. And here's that thing, you know, only people who have no native ties or who are not allies who say that shit you're saying. That's it. Only people like you are running around hollering, MMIP is a cult. MMIP is a cult. You know why it's a cult? Because you want it to be a cult. You and your anti-native shit, you want it to be a cult. But you're not doing the research. You're not looking into it. You're just signing on with everybody else who has small penises and decide to call themselves Willie. You know, because Willie is a derogative for small penis. You know, and you clearly have a small penis because you're going after a whole movement to help save Native American people. Instead of you joining the movement, trying to help save them, you want to go and try to hurt them and call them a cult. We all know who you voted for. Any fucking hell. The bottom line is really quite simple. I don't even need a second part for this, because I'm almost at my destination, by the way. But you, sir, are a bionic jackass. That's right. You are a bionic jackass. Missing and murdered indigenous people is a necessary movement to keep indigenous people, aka today's Native Americans, alive. But, you know, for you, that's not a possibility, because you believe the MMIP is a cult. And to you, I say this, little wee-wee. Put your pick rack in your pants. Start thinking with your actual head. And for once in your life, go actually ask a Native American who has some family members missing and on that list. Why don't you ask them if they think that MMIP is a cult? Now, granted, there has been some people who have used MMIP to make bank, and they are not a part of MMIP. That is a different thing. Now, if you want to specifically talk about that, I'm not the guy to talk to, because I do know that that shit does exist. And that has put a little damper on MMIP. But there are also people who are on MMIP, and that bank that they make goes directly to the MMIP movement. So you just have to do your research on who you're buying your shit from before you accuse every one of them of being a cult. And for the record, TikTok, this was for educational purposes. I do not know or give two shits if this asshole that believes MMIP is a cult has a small penis. Clearly that's the head he was thinking with, but that is not my problem. That's his problem. So that being said, I'm going to work now. Later.